Zucchini crackers are one of the raw crackers that I make the most often. I really like them, and this gives us a great opportunity to use up that extra almond pulp from making our delicious almond milk. So I've got 2 cups here. I'm going to throw that into my bowl. Now what's going to set this is chia seeds, and I'm also going to use a little bit of flax seeds. So 1/4 cup. Now this works just like the flaxseed. Remember how that becomes gelatinous? So they call it mucoid. It's got mucoid properties. So I'm going to soak that in water. Just cover it up. Well, it is 1/4 cup, but I was a bit shy. Cover it with water and just let that sit while we prepare the other ingredients. Have about 1 tablespoon or a couple of teaspoons of vegetable stock powder. I really like this brand. It's a vegan one. So even if you get beef style or chicken style, they're all vegetarian, they're all vegan. So this gives us some salt and some flavour. We're going to have 3/4 cup of pumpkin seeds, pepitas. So these give great texture, and actually might even save some to sprinkle on top. And could also grind some using the spice grinder. Now we're going to grate our zucchini. Now, 3 zucchinis. Now, I kind of have purposely chosen these 3 because they're all different sizes. So you can use your common sense. That one's kind of chubby, this one's kind of small, that one's kind of medium. In my way of thinking, they round out to 3 medium-sized zucchinis. Use what you have. You don't need to go and select the most perfect-looking vegetable at the fruit shop. You could use your food processor, but I'm a bit old school. I like to use my hands as much as possible. So meanwhile, we've got the chia seeds that are soaking that are going to help bind our crackers. Now I love these because these are a great alternative to having bread or a wheat cracker. So just because you've decided to go vegan or raw vegan doesn't mean that those desires for having something substantial go away. So this fulfills the need for bread. And great to serve up with crackers or dips, and there's so many beautiful dips that you can make. All right. Another good tip is to put the salt on the zucchini, so that will start to shed its moisture, and then I can use that liquid to soak the chia seeds. Just remembering, the more water you put in, the longer it's going to take to dehydrate, which is fine. You just have to be more patient. I've got another zucchini to grate, but I just want to get the salt on now. Have I grated my fingers? Yes. So just be careful. I don't want to put those big things in because it makes the cracker fall apart. So I just get rid of those big bits. Tidy up. I'm putting some garlic as well in there for flavour. And I don't mind this taking a little bit of time because meanwhile these things are soaking. Maybe about, well, it's making 2 trays here, so maybe 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. You can leave the garlic out if you like. This is the best garlic crusher I've actually found. IKEA. I'm sure you can probably buy them all over the world. And also you don't really need to take the skin off. But if you don't have a garlic crusher like this, a simple way around that, and I'm all for not buying unnecessary gadgets if you're not going to use them, get your clove of garlic and the heel of the knife or the broad edge of the knife, just squish it, then you can peel off the skin and then slice that. And notice when I'm chopping, to have the fingers tucked away, and so the knife butts up against the knuckles, and that way you'll avoid chopping off your finger. And then I just didn't do it. Okay, but I want it really fine, so I'm just going to stick it in here anyway. Okay, I'm going to get in there and use my hands. So I want this water to come out and mix with everything. Plus I'm mixing the nut meal in properly. You can always wash your hands. Absolutely use a spoon if you don't like this part of it. But this is where you infuse your good energy. And this is the difference when food's made with love. I thoroughly recommend a movie called Like Water for Chocolate. It's Spanish, but you can get the dubbed version. And it's such a cool movie. The woman who makes the food, everything that she eats, everything that she feels goes into the food that she makes. So one day she's really sad, and when she's cooking, her tears go into the food. And then when everyone eats the meal that night, they're just crying and they're filled with grief. And there's another time where she's preparing the wedding banquet and she's so sad because her love is marrying somebody else. Oh no, that's another story. Hang on, hold that. That's right. There's another time when she's preparing. Hang on, hold that story. It's a good story, I want to tell you. Hang on. So, in Like Water for Chocolate, there's another scene where the woman who prepares the food, so we're adding the flax seeds, is feeling very amorous. Her lover comes to visit her in the kitchen, and after their amorous encounter and the food's prepared at the wedding, everyone at the wedding feast is going crazy and cavorting with each other, and some run off naked. So anyway, it's kind of a fun story. What you feel while you make your meals goes into the food. So cook with love. I also like to flavour this with some herbs. You could use dried herbs, but I have this beautiful rosemary from the garden. And I'm going to fry this up. I know that technically that's not raw, but it releases the flavour. And if you put this in raw, it's a bit bitter. Just going to cook this up in a little bit of olive oil. You could use coconut oil, but I actually don't like the flavour of cooked coconut oil. Oh, even better if you heated the oil, but I'm just going to get back to what I'm doing over there. So I'll just keep an eye on that. Now I've decided I think this needs a little bit more chia seed to bind it. So I soaked a little bit more. Just play it by ear. The more you make this recipe, the more you'll know what works for you. And you can't really get it wrong. See any bits like that, just take them out. Why do I want more chia seeds? Because I want it to bind. When it dries, I don't want the crackers to fall apart. I want them to hold their shape. Then you can use them as a sandwich base or a pizza base. I've even molded these into tart shells and made a savoury tart. So grab yourself 2 baking trays and some baking paper. That's to make it non-stick. Or if you have a dehydrator and your Teflex sheets, get them. I love these because they make nothing stick. So I've divided the mixture in half. And all you need to do is spread it onto here. Now there's 2 ways that you can do this. You could spread it with the spatula, which is quite fine. Or if you're feeling that's a little bit challenging, you could get another sheet of baking paper. Just pretend that's baking paper. Grab a rolling pin and roll it out. Oops, a little bit too non-stick. Oh, I'm not even rolling it, I'm just using it as a smoother. So you could do that. I want you to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to just use the spatula. So going for a uniform thickness because you want it to dry evenly. It's going to dry from the outside edges first, so they can be slightly thicker. But if you have one bit that's really thick and another bit that's thin, well, if it's too thin, it's going to crumble and break, and that's going to take too long to dry. So as best as you can, make it even. Remember, we're not seeking perfection. You're actually just seeking to nourish your body and your family's bodies. I love it how you can see the little bits of vegetable in there, the variety of nuts and seeds, and the little flecks of herbs. See, when it breaks apart, it's going to dry and crack a little bit anyway, so at least try and start with it holding together. And then you can top it with some extra pumpkin seeds, maybe a little bit of a sprinkle of smoked paprika, because I love the colour and also the flavour of the smoked paprika. So here's one that I've generously sprinkled with the paprika. You don't have to put that on. Might just put a light dusting on this one. Hey you, that's not a light dusting. Pinch of love. Okay, they go in the oven, which you can dehydrate. Probably overnight would be best for these, or 8 hours on a low temperature, or I'm going to put them in the dehydrator. Now, it's not an exact science. It depends on the humidity in the air, it depends on the moisture in your vegetables, depends on how much water you added. So dry them until they're as crunchy as you like. If you want them chewy, not so long. If you want them really crispy, make them thinner and keep them in longer. If I was going to make a pizza, I'd probably keep it whole like this, but we're going to use these for crackers. So grab yourself a knife. I don't want to cut into these Teflex, so I've got this really cool thing just to make straight little, it's kind of like a little perforation. So once it's dry, it's snappable. We'll have some little crumbly bits on the end. Easy, right? So people ask me, is it time consuming to do this? Well, yes and no. If you were going to make bread or actually make even just a wheat cracker, it would probably take just as long. Is it expensive? Again, yes and no. Your body's nourished, so you're going to require less food. And it's absolutely much cheaper than buying these kind of things. I saw in the supermarket the other day a little packet, and it must have had about, I don't know, maybe like 6 crackers, and it was like $5. Much cheaper to make it yourself. So these are going into my dehydrator, or you can put them in your oven. I'm going to check on some that I had drying before. Now these were rolled quite thinly. Notice how I don't have them on the Teflex sheet anymore. So to speed the drying time, you can flip them. So just grab another baking tray that's the same size. Do it when the mix is dry. If it's sloppy, it might fall apart. See that? Just a quick flick of the wrist, and then you can see one that I made earlier. Now, if you forgot to score them before you put them in the oven, don't worry, you can just cut them now. And if they crack into uneven shapes, that's fine. But what I love about cutting them or scoring them before they dry is, look, so easy to break apart into these perfect little snack side pieces. I need a little taste. Yum. That's really good. Now, I hope that you go and make these, and don't be like me and other people when they watch cooking demonstrations at home. They then go and sit there with their Vegemite sandwich, if you're in Australia, or whatever else. Eat something really basic while someone at home on TV is making this really delicious thing. Okay, storing them in an airtight container. Look at that. So fun. Remember, this is not the only shape, this is not the only size. Make them whatever size you want. Sometimes I've made them this big to make a nice big open sandwich. Might even leave one like that. Easy, so easy. Yes, not as easy as going to the shop and buying some. But now you're empowered. You have the tools that you can make it yourself. Grain-free, gluten-free, vegan cracker. And what a great way to sneak some extra vegetables into your family's meal. Zucchini crackers.